You are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Infomedia.
The advantage of containers is some of these architectures are very, they're increasingly complex. You start thinking about multiple clusters, you start thinking about multiple clouds, you start thinking about multiple nodes, you start thinking about multiple regions. So to maximize an organization's uptime, you have to have some efficiencies that are going to give you scale and predictability, and that's the role that containers play within the world of software delivery, uptime, time to market, and customer experience.
CIOTV.live, a production of Accent Infomedia. Today, my guest is Dmitri Chen, Executive Vice President and General Manager, Asia Pacific and Japan for New Relic. Dmitri Chen is Executive Vice President and GM, Asia Pacific and Japan, responsible for driving customer success in the region. Chen brings a New Relic over 20 years of experience in technology leadership, spanning software, hardware, and services. He spends the last 19 years with Dell EMC, most recently leading go-to-market efforts of APJ region as the company's COO and VP for sales. In this role, Chen was responsible for leading APJ customers through critical digital transformation efforts and driving growth through adoption of company's technology solution, including Dell EMC, Pivotal, RSA, SecureWorks, VirtuStream, and VMware. Dmitri, warm welcome to you to CIOTV.live.
Oh, thank you for having me, Sanjay, and it's a pleasure to see you again, and a very happy Independence Day to everybody in India.
Thank you, Dmitri. Thank you. So my first question comes to you, which was not given to you, is how do you feel working in a fairly smaller companies coming from a very legacy-based large company?
Yeah, there's some similarities, and then there's also some, quite a bunch of differences. One of the things I'm really enjoying is just the size of team that we have within New Relic across the region, and an opportunity to really build out and extend our presence across the region. And so one of the things that's really special about our company is it's a really lead with heart type of culture. So everybody feels like they're very closely bonded. And so I've just been, I guess it's just been a really honor to spend time with such an amazing set of, we call them relics within the company. And I mean, not just within our region of Asia Pacific, Japan, but also globally. It's just quite a special place. So, there's some nice things about working for a very large organization. I think the Dell EMC side was probably around 35,000 employees across the region. And, this is a much smaller experience, but it's nice because it's much easier for me to get to have a one-on-one relationship with everybody across our operation.
What is your sense of this current market? It's not difficult. It's not easy though. What do you feel? How do you see the market panning out? What is the optimism in the market?
The optimism is, well, there's different organizations that are on a different side of the fence. Some organizations have been focused very heavily around digital transformation and around IT transformation, and they've been putting a lot of effort into that, trying to disrupt themselves and transform. Those ones that have made it kind of over that hump, they would view this as an opportunity for them to extend their lead within their respective industries. Then there's others that maybe have been focused on it as well, but they haven't made as many strides towards a transformed state. And you know, the shift towards more emphasis around software and work from home or work from anywhere, the reliance on devices, and you know, if you think about software being the most important face of any organization to their end user, it either exposes some competitive gaps, or it really surfaces some competitive edge. So what we're observing is organizations are on a bit on either side of that fence. The ones that are feeling behind, they're looking for help on how to close the gap, and the ones that have gone through a pretty significant transformation, they're looking for help on how do they extend their lead. So I don't know. It's really put the emphasis around software. It's really put the emphasis around cloud. It's really put the emphasis around the importance of software developers for organizations, and whether they have an agile culture. And I don't mean just agile from a software methodology standpoint, but I mean an agile culture where the leadership organization agrees on this is where we would like to go. So a lot of different conversations, and I don't think there's an industry that hasn't felt a level of disruption or awakening.
To your reckoning, which are the verticals or the technologies driving the growth? Although cloud is one of the tenants which is driving the growth in the market, what else?
Yeah, I would say for me the answer would be that it's a bit around like you can have an agile culture within an organization. You could have an agile culture within a specific industry. You can have an agile culture within a specific country. What you do see is that the world is increasingly flat. So the only thing that you really need is a level of connectivity, and you need to have applications. You need to have reach to almost any customer audience on the planet. So what it means is there's a great leveling field for every organization, just about in every industry. And so you see a lot of leapfrogging thinking going on. You can see the importance of technologies like 5G that will you know have on the world. But you can, I think most importantly, the shift is this reliance on what's our strategy. If I'm a customer, what's our strategy around being a software driven organization moving forward versus a reliance on face-to-face interactions. All of a sudden there's just a big emphasis around, you know, it's possible that the bulk of my relationship with my customers could be on the browser, or it could be on the device. And some organizations were ready for that and some were not. So I haven't seen specific industries where I'm like, those ones are feeling it more than others. I would say whether it's the public sector or if it's the private sector, and it's across financial services, retail, manufacturing, transportation, you're seeing a large wake-up call for everybody.
So you don't differentiate, or you don't have any preference in mind in terms of any particular market or particular vertical industry, say it hospitality or healthcare or aviation or retail, those which are growing or making bigger strides than the other organizations, other kinds of organizations.
I wish I could say that there was one or two, but I guess, Sanjay, if you think about, you know, just the world of travel, how much it's been disrupted, or if you start thinking about how retail has moved out of like the mall and onto online, or you think about how just ride hailing has shifted as far as demand goes, or you think about entertainment with respect to sporting events or concerts, or if you think about healthcare, obviously the shift. I really don't. I mean, if you think about education and the shift that it's going through, I wish I could tell you there was one or two that we really need to focus on, but the answer is pretty much every industry that I can think of is having to rethink how they conduct business. And it'd be probably easier if I was born, if I was incubating an organization within COVID than one that's coming into COVID, right? So there may be, there are probably long-term leases that I have, there's employees that I have, there's supply chain that I have, am I carrying anything into this equation? It can be very difficult. It's very similar to organizations that are born in the cloud versus organizations that have traditional data centers that are trying to get out of the data center business and into the cloud. It's easier as a disruptor if you were born in the cloud, or I suspect born in time of COVID, because you would know a lot of the requirements on, in order to run a business. You would know what type of revenue you would need and what type of margins you would need to be successful, rather than having to re-architect your go-to-market in the midst of this period of time. And it seems like this period of time will be something that's with us, that affects us for quite an extended period of time, and we're just going to we'll have to adapt. So what I meant by agile cultures are the ones that can think like a disruptor, that basically have the courage to say, let's do some clean sheet thinking. So if the leadership team gets together and says, all right, what if we were starting the business today? What would we do? And they architect towards an ideal outcome. Then the question they would ask is baseline where they are today, and what's the phased approach they could take in order to realize that outcome. As long as they can get together around a common vision, then you can figure out what each person's and each organization's, department's role is within that mission. But you have to let's start with a clean sheet approach. What would we do? That's really hard for a lot of organizations culturally, because maybe they've been running their business for 10, 20, 100 years. And to think like a disruptor can be very difficult, because you have a lot of deep muscle memory in the way that things have always been done.
All right, so you mean to say that let us reset everything and start it afresh. Okay, with this, I'm asking the next question. These days, container technologies are doing wonders in terms of bringing in quick apps and integrating, which is the need of the hour. So how relevant is the container technology given the context of BCP, business continuity planning, and digital transformation, even customer satisfaction?
That's a very good question, and a little bit technical, but the answer is, what containers do is it gives you scale, it gives you standards, and it gives you time to market. So that's the beauty of containers. If you think about what's the main objective for organizations today with respect to software, I want to be able to keep my business online, and I want to be able to please my end user, so I provide a customer experience that's superior to my competition. And I have to be able to capture how that customer feels at any given moment, so that I have that feedback loop, so I can continually make things better. The advantage of containers is some of these architectures are very, they're increasingly complex. You start thinking about multiple clusters, you start thinking about multiple clouds, you start thinking about multiple nodes, you start thinking about multiple regions. So to maximize an organization's uptime, you have to have some efficiencies that are going to give you scale and predictability. And that's the role that containers play within the world of software delivery, uptime, time to market, and customer experience. But it's a very good question.
New Relic, it's a fairly new company. What is the relevance and relevance to the market, and what are the various solutions that New Relic is offering to the organization?
Well, we've actually been, New Relic has actually been in business for about 12 years. Okay, we went public about 5 years ago. The company was the inception of the company was really built around application monitoring. Now, if you think about application monitoring 12 years ago, for most organizations, they'll have a website and they need to know that the company's history and the locations, and maybe like in a restaurant example, their menu is online. and that the phone numbers or locations are listed. That's about the extent of, you know, software, the need now. And I'm not talking about internal back office systems, but I'm talking about the forward-facing customer examples. And when you start thinking about, you know, how much the world's changed in the last 12 years, this device, you know, the smartphone was really on, like this iPhone came out about 10 years ago. And think about everything that's occurred since then, right? So if you think about any business that's been around, how they've changed, they have evolved from looking at, you know, say a website monitoring, that's evolved into browser monitoring, it's evolved to mobile, you know, monitoring, it's evolved to infrastructure monitoring. It may be serverless monitoring, it's cloud monitoring, it's injecting artificial intelligence. So what happened is, for our organization, we kept trying to solve for all these different operational data points for customers, because I have to have a good feel for, like, how is my software being consumed by my end user? And so what ended up happening is over this period of time, we kept adding new products to address, like, monitoring of different points of data for customers. We did that, and a lot of other organizations did that. So what do we do right now? We're able to measure and monitor full-scale software telemetry data, which is basically, it's my ability to measure how do you feel about, you know, not New Relic, but any organization, how do you feel as it relates to me from a software perspective? And that the industry term is a term that's an acronym that's called MELT. So it will be metrics data. It's how much time did you spend on this particular part of my software? It's events. So that would be different things that did you click to these different points within my software? It would be log data. So I have to keep a history of what's occurred. And then it's things like tracing. And so tracing would be, I moved from this point to this point to this point to this point. When you think about measuring MELT data, that's how I can determine how do you feel. So what this company has done is we've essentially said all of that MELT data, which is expanding every second for every organization, how do you capture all of that data into a single place? And can you look at, from your experience across an application portfolio, my software, along with other third-party, you know, partners to your organization, across an expanding multi-cloud realm, across traditional infrastructure and server storage network, and then new technologies like serverless and containers, are you able to make sure that you have a very good feel for how you are experiencing the software I'm providing as an organization? Companies need help with that. It's a moving target every single moment of every single day. That's the business that we're in. We focus on what's the customer experience as it relates to the software that our customers bring to their customers.
But then, by the way, how big is the market? What is the market size as per, say, some of the consultants, they might be bringing out the numbers?
We would put the estimate on it around $70 billion. That's right in the core part of what we do. But if you can imagine, like, the world of software, it touches so many different aspects of every business, and it's changing every day. I would say that total addressable market is moving from 70 billion to much larger than that, like, every single day. So I don't know. It's a really boundless opportunity that we see, you know, because it's a really hard business problem to solve for every organization. There's not an organization
absolutely
not thinking about that.
Exactly, I understand, because the software enabled services is growing, so more and more softwares are coming inside your assets. So taking a measure of the number is very difficult, but yes, what you said is a fairly good number looking at the market size. And what is because I was going through your website and certain websites also in order to find out about your competitive advantage, but I couldn't find it much about New Relic over other, you know, similar companies providing similar solutions. Yeah, what's your
Well,
competitive?
We just went through a very dramatic new platform launch about 2.5 weeks ago. So it would be brand new. You remember when I was describing us releasing new products to market to continually solve for this expanding complex ecosystem of software over the years? We just, you know, we landed on somewhere around 11 or 12 unique SKUs. And so we went up having customer conversations around which of these different products do you really like? How much of them would you need? Who would be the users for them? And over what contract term would you like to make an agreement? And if you start thinking about the 11 or 12 product SKUs that we brought to market, and then you start thinking about all the different companies that operate in the space of software monitoring, you know, it becomes a very difficult situation for customers. So they basically said, we're going through tools sprawl. You know, we have a lot of tools from you. We have a lot of tools from, you know, other companies that operate in the space. We have countless silos of data, which makes it so that it's really hard for us to get to a single version of the truth. So would there be a way for you to help ingest all of that telemetry data into a single place, into a single platform? So that is the release that we just went through 2 weeks ago, is this single telemetry data platform to ingest all of that data into a single place. So then our customers are able to observe their customer experience all the way through those multiple layers in a full stack manner, so they have a full observability of their overall digital business. That's a very unique proposition that nobody else within our space or in the world is capable of doing.
All right, so from your customer point of view, where do you think the tractions are happening for you, for New Relic?
We have a lot of born in the cloud companies that the amount of data that they are sitting on top of, and their desire to go capture millions of additional customers to land new customers, but also cross-sell their existing customers. There's a lot of help that's that those born in the cloud companies are looking for. And that's really, I would say, what we would call digital customer experience, a focus on the end user experience. We have a lot of organizations that have been around for quite some time that are trying to get out of the data center. So those traditional enterprise organizations are saying, like, we want to not just get into a multi-cloud state or a public cloud state because of cost savings opportunities, but because our software developers are expressing like a cloud native experience is the most desirable because it helps us with time to market. It helps us bring new products and services to market. And it's what those software developers are asking for. So we help organizations with that element of digital customer experience to cross-sell and to go land net new customers. And then we help customers get out of the core data center business so that they can move themselves into more of a cloud native experience for their software developers. So it kind of depends on how long a company has been around, what they're usually asking for help around. But all of them are thinking about how do we bring new products and services, enhancements to market as quickly as possible to really enhance end user experience. And how can we, I would say that, you know, with the economic situation we're on the doorstep of, there will be more and more organizations, if they do have a data center, that they'll want to get out of the data center business and they'll want to focus on their core competency. But they'll want to try and find a way to get into the cloud. And then once in the cloud, is there a way for me to help lower the amount of spend that I have within that cloud from a predictability standpoint? So it kind of depends. You know, I wouldn't say there's any specific geography or vertical, again, that is higher uptake than others. Obviously, I mean, we have customers right now that are in the airline business, but there's some that are looking for ways to go drive cost efficiencies, but there's a number of them that are trying to use this period to enhance their end user experience and look at the value of their loyalty programs, for example, to figure out how do they use that to cross-sell to other elements of their portfolio beyond just flight. Okay, so some of them think about like their loyalty programs and some of their shopping capabilities for their stores. So we're just seeing a lot of new businesses incubating within traditional firms, and it doesn't really matter whether it's traditional firms or like born in the cloud ones. I'll give you an example. Maybe we worked with Zest Money in India, which, you know, as you would know, is a fintech startup. And the company is built completely around software, and the business problem they're trying to solve for is how do we leverage mobile, digital banking, and artificial intelligence to give answers to applicants for bank loans based on credit? How do we do that within minutes versus how you would do it historically within India? And so in working with how the software works together and working with them combined with AWS around helping them design their microservices management. They have about, I think, around 80 different microservices, and each of those would have different credit, you know, decision criteria with each microservice, and they have to stay really current with that, with around everything. But ultimately, the speed to being able to assess credit risk, they've been able to just in the last like 4 years, they've been able to, I think, land around over 6 million customers across India. That's a really successful startup from a fintech that's built completely in software world and in the cloud. So that's an interesting one. You know, I guess another example would be organizations like IAG, you know, down in Australia. So that's an insurer that's been around for, I guess, probably 100 or 150 years. They would have grown up to becoming an extremely complex ecosystem. And the challenge that they expressed was, we have a lot of different silos of data. It's really hard for us to pinpoint a single version of the truth. And so would there be a way for you to help us capture all of that metric data, all the event data, all the log data, and the different software traces, so that we could get to a single version of the truth, so that we can make sure that our customer experience is as delightful as possible. And so we helped work with them to help consolidate all of those into a single digital, you know, a single telemetry data platform experience.
What is your growth strategy going forward? I can see that you are bringing in onboarding, you know, skill sets to your organization, bringing in good people. Apart from that, what else?
Our primary strategy is to continue to get closer to our customers, to understand their business to the best of our ability. If we can understand all of the operational data points that their business is running under from a software perspective. I have like a gnat in here. If we can do that, then we can help them. Then we can help them really supercharge their business from a software perspective, and also give as delightful a customer experience. In order for us to do that, it means that we have to continue to make investments into and across local presence within the theater. So I've been here for 9 months, and in the last 9 months, we opened the Singapore office, we opened a Seoul office, and we're on the doorstep of opening the other offices across the region. So my expectation is that we're going to continue to invest in that, so that we can get as close to our customers as possible. Because these conversations around how do you currently measure your business from a digital perspective, and how will you in the very near future, those conversations are happening every single day. So we just have to get as close to them as possible, and understanding their current situation on how we might be able to help them get to market faster, to scale at a level that they've never scaled before. and ultimately do everything possible to keep their business online all the time.
I think we are in a region which is actually growing and going forward. This region, Asia Pacific, will dominate from the standpoint of software, hardware, everything, because we have in this region have got manufacturing, have got software excellence. It has a market also, consumer also. So I think your time is very, very bright looking at this situation. And thank you very much for speaking to CIOTV.live. It's a really pleasure having a conversation.
Sanjay, it's a joy to see you. Thank you for the thought-provoking questions. Take care, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Pleasure.
And this is my data nerd shirt, in case you were wondering what it is.
I understand.